Hi guys, welcome to the return of Coedffranc Primary. Throughout this video, I'll be showing you the things that you need to know for your return to school. Remember, you'll be returning for 1 day a week for the next 3 weeks. Firstly, let's talk about drop-offs and pick-up points in the foundation phase. The foundation phase children and parents with children in the foundation phase and Key Stage 2 will be entering through the Stanley Road gate as shown here. You'll be asked to line up against the wall on the pavement 2 metres apart. This is down to you to adhere to social distancing ruling. You will not be allowed in through the gates until all teachers are in place and ready. Mrs. Furs, who's on the gate, will get the nod when this is so, and then we'll open the gate and we'll ask you to start making your way through them. As you can see, Mrs. Furs will be directing you from here and asking you to stick as close to the perimeter as possible. This means sticking as close to the wall and following around the outside of the upper infant yard. Parents will be asked to come in 2 metres at a time, keeping that at a safe distance, ensuring it happens all the time. Now when you get to Mrs. Griffiths, as Miss Robinson is here, she will direct you, if you're in year 1-2, over to Mrs. Harris, Mrs. Collins or Miss Brocklebank. This will be for these children in year 2 and they will just simply leave their parents here and go over to their lines. Parents, we ask you to carry on the carousel and keep walking down the yard. This is so that you don't double back and bump into anybody who's coming in now. You might think we've forgotten about reception. Of course we haven't. As you can see, Mrs. Gabriel is pretending to be in reception today and she is carrying on walking down. So you will keep your child with you down to this point where there's 2 teaching assistants at the top of the ramp who will direct your child down to Mrs. Harvey or Mrs. Jones, who will be waiting down in the bottom yard. Parents, you will carry on that carousel and not stop, making sure that you're keeping 2 metres distance with the person in front of you. And if your child is in the foundation phase, by the time you get to the top of the ramp, they would have left you by this point. If you have a child in Key Stage 2, please keep them with you, as they will need to walk with you around, as you can see, around this corner and head up towards the Key Stage 2 yard. As you walk up to these steps, parents, you'll need to climb these steps. If you have a pram or pushchair, we will be there to assist you. If you need wheelchair access, let us know and we'll arrange for you to come out to the gate. At this point here, Mrs. McHugh will be waiting to take off you any Key Stage 2 children, siblings, that need to go to their classes in Key Stage 2. They will then be directed from there into their classes. Parents, you will carry on walking up, sticking as close to the fence as you can see here, as you can, and making your way out of the exit around the front of our Key Stage 2 building. This will be your exit point in the afternoon as well as in the morning. When all the parents are off the yard, it's time to get the children inside. Firstly, the reception children will make their way in through separate doors. When this has happened, there will be a signal given to Miss Brocklebank by the teaching assistants on the ramp, and Miss Brocklebank will then take her class in, as you can see here. Mrs. Collins will then follow, and then Mrs. Harris will follow in lastly, with the teaching assistants mopping up behind, making sure that everyone's inside safe and well. The end of the day will be the same as the start of the day. The teaching assistants will come out and the children will be brought out into their lines ready for the parents to come and pick them up. The gates will not be open until all children are on their spots and ready to be picked up. The classes will make their way out one by one, as you can see here. And they will make their way up to the spots in ready for the carousel to start again and children to be picked up one by one as the parents make their way around the carousel. When the children are back on their spots, Mrs. Furs will be told that she can now open the gate. Parents, please make your way on the carousel around, and your child will be sent to you as you're making your way around the carousel. The reception children will be sent up as called for by the teaching assistants at the top of the ramp. You'll then make your way out to the exit as you did in the morning at the front of the Key Stage 2 building. What about Key Stage 2 drop-offs and pickups? Here's the information for you. If you have a child in Key Stage 2, you will need to access us through our old road entrance, as you can see here. You'll be asked to line up against the wall 2 metres apart, and this is down to you to adhere to social distancing. When it's approximately 9 o'clock and everybody's in place inside, Mr. Astley will be here to meet you. That's me, to open the gate and direct you through the way you need to go. You'll then be asked to maintain your social distance as you cross our zebra crossing and follow the arrows around to our front yard. We assure you that no vehicles will be permitted to use our site at this time, so it will be safe for everyone to do so. Now, keeping your child with you, we'll need you to make your way up the ramp and onto our yard. As you can see, we'd like you to stick between the railings and the tyres to maintain the social distancing from the lines on the yard. Now on this yard is where my class, Mrs. Evans' class and Mrs. Robinson's class will line up. Miss Reese will be there waiting for my class, as you can see. Mrs. Evans will be there waiting for her class, and Mrs. Robinson's class will be at the top. Your child will simply just peel off from you and go to join our lines. You will carry on around the one-way system, following directions from all staff. Remember, pupils, it's important that you go to the next available dot and stand there until your teacher gives you further directions. At this point now is where Mrs. Roderick, Mr. James, Mrs. Gabriel and Mr. Lloyd's class will leave them. Mrs. Williams and Mrs. Smith will be here to take the children off the parents and direct them to where their lines will be lined up in front of our school building. Parents, you must carry on around the carousel and head towards Mrs. Blewett, who will then direct you down the steps and out to our yard. Again, Mrs. Blewett will be there to help anyone with pushchairs or prams, and if anybody needs wheelchair access, please let us know and we'll arrange for a safe time for you to come back down the ramp that you used to get up. Again, we assure you there will be no moving vehicles on our premises at this time, making it safe for you to go down the steps, across the yard and around the back of the canteen, out to the entrance you came in through. It is imperative that everybody is on time to make this system flow as well as we need it to. Again, like the foundation phase, when all the parents are off the yard, it will be safe for us to move our children into their classes. Mrs. Roderick will lead first, with Mr. James following behind, going through his door. Mrs. Gabriel then following behind Mr. James. Mr. Lloyd will then follow, followed by Mrs. Robinson, Mrs. Evans and my class. We'll be making our way through designated doors, with Mrs. Roderick going down to her building, Mr. James going round and using the buzzer door around the front. Mrs. Gabriel will then follow around and use the double red doors. Mr. Lloyd will then go into the fire exit built into his classroom. Mrs. Robinson will follow around and use the double red doors as well, and myself and Mrs. Evans' class will enter through the red door in the Key Stage 2 hall. At the end of the school day, all teaching assistants will be in place and the children will be brought out and taken back to their spots. The parents will then come onto the carousel, as they did in the morning, and their children will be delivered to them on that walking round carousel. We aim to keep the parents moving and children getting to their parents as quick as possible to avoid delays and maintain our 2-metre social distance. What will happen at playtimes? Each class will be allocated an area to play in at playtimes. Here's the foundation phase, and here's Key Stage 2. You may want to pause the video to help your child familiarise themselves with their area. They'll be asked to stay in pods and maintain their 2-metre social distance. And what happens at lunch? Pods will access the dining hall one at a time. Children will be sat 2 to a table but 2 metres apart so they can still talk to their friends while adhering to the social distancing. What should I wear? Pupils will be happy to know that you don't have to wear school uniform. If you feel comfortable in it, you can wear it. However, we're asking children to wear comfortable clothing that's easily washable when they get home from school. Children will also be required to wear comfortable footwear as we will be spending a lot of time outside. This means you may want to provide your child with a sun hat and sun lotion that they can apply themselves. We want them to be protected while we're outside as much as we can. So what can I actually bring to school? No rucksacks will be allowed on the school site. We are asking children to bring any lunch in a disposable carrier bag as shown in the picture. You can also bring a snack for break time in this carrier bag as the Key Stage 2 fruit shop will not be running during these times. We're also asking children to bring their own stationery in a snappy bag as above. A pen, pencil, ruler, rubber, colouring pencils and sharpener. Children can also bring a refillable drinks bottle clearly marked with their name. They may also bring any medication needed throughout the day, but we are asking parents, as it's hay fever season, to give their child a 1-a-day hay fever tablet before they attend school. When will we wash our hands? Children will be reminded to regularly hand wash in class, in the toilets at regular intervals, and use hand gel provided in classes and now attached in dispensers at the class doors. Children are not permitted to bring their own hand gel, and these may not comply with our safety regulations. What is social distance? Well, government guidelines have asked us to keep 2 metres apart. You may have seen signs like this around the place. 2 metres is actually 2 desks laid length to length as shown in the video here. As long as you keep this far apart, we will be adhering to social distancing. What if someone in my pod shows symptoms? Child in a pod is showing symptoms. Each parent of the children in that pod will be contacted to be made aware of this. We will then follow Public Health Wales guidelines as to how long each pupil in that pod and teacher must self-isolate. Please ensure if you, your child or anyone in your household has shown any symptoms of COVID-19 that you do not enter the school grounds. We must all work together in order to keep our children safe. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact me on the email address here or contact the school tomorrow. We look forward to seeing as many children back in school as possible, and as Mickey says, we'll see you real soon.